Hello, everyone. This is Tom Fox, and I'd like to welcome you to a special edition of Popcorn and Compliance. As you know from prior episodes, Megan Dougherty, co-founder of One Stone Creative, and I are huge MCU fans. So we've decided to do the MCU movie oeuvre. That's right. We're going to do all of the MCU movies in this special podcast series. Over this series, we will take a look at the storylines, some of the cookies and other cool things. We'll describe the great action scenes from each episode, and then we'll take a look at issues raised by each episode. It's going to be a lot of fun. We will take things from the societal angle, from the social justice angle, from the MCU angle, and perhaps even from the compliance angle. But if you're an MCU fan or you're a compliance fan, I know you will enjoy this episode. We take up my second favorite MCU movie, Winter Soldier. Popcorn and Compliance, the MCU series, is a special production of the Compliance Podcast Network. Hello, everyone. This is Tom Fox, back again with Megan Dougherty for our continued exploration of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And as always, we're continuing our challenge where we review the entire MCU on Popcorn and Compliance. Why? Well, because it's there. And we are uber geek fans. We are reviewing the films as they appear in chronological order in the MCU timeline, not by release date. So today we have my second favorite, The Winter Soldier. I'm your co-host, Tom Fox, founder of the Compliance Podcast Network.
And I'm Megan Dougherty, co-founder of One Stone Creative, and I'm really excited to hear that this is your second favorite MCU movie. It doesn't make the very top of my list, although I enjoyed it, so I'm excited to hear what you love about it so much.
It is the biggest, best roller coaster ride you can have. I mean, it starts out and never stops.
That's true.
It is just great. I love the Winter Soldier. I loved him the first time I saw him. I thought he was one of the most badass dudes I'd ever seen. And in one of the early scenes, the earliest scene with the Avenger group, they are rescuing a SHIELD naval ship. It's been taken over by pirates and is under. They're trying to ransom it. And they fly over and they're going to parachute down and land on the ship, except for Captain America, who just jumps. And it's one of the pilots asked one of the SHIELD team members, did he have a parachute on? And the answer is no. But it just, I had forgotten, it just rocks. And it rocks and it rocks. It has Robert Redford, who I've always loved. Even when he's a delicious villain. We've got hints of the romance between Natasha and Bruce Banner / the Incredible Hulk. They've got Tech, the flying aircraft carriers that are being built and are going to be used for incredibly nefarious means. And there's a pretty interesting philosophical sort of discussion throughout this episode, led by Nick Fury, also the Robert Redford character. As part of that discussion, Captain America chimes in from his 1940s perspective. So I really, really, really enjoyed this movie. The kind of the first big fight scene between the Winter Soldier and Captain America is one of my favorite. I don't know how long it is. I forgot to time it as I was rewatching it. 5-10 minutes, whatever it is, but it's just great. And the stunt work was just spectacular. Sam, we're introduced to Sam. In this role, who was a paraglider, I think you would call him, in the armed forces. And then the whole meeting of Sam and Captain America, I found that incredibly poignant. and then where they meet in front of the Lincoln Memorial. But then when Captain goes to see him at the VA, and you see what he is doing with vets who come back. You have to remember this came out 2013, I think, and we were still in the middle of our 20-year war. But we had a lot of vets who had fought sort of 04, 05, 06, 07, who 7 years later were still dealing with PTSD and their own nightmares from the war. So I really appreciated that part of it, where they focused on what I thought was I still think is an important veterans issue in America. If you have unlimited wars, you're going to have unlimited damage to veterans. So, like I said, I just love the whole thing. Why is this not one of your favorites?
Well, it hits a lot like a spy movie, doesn't it?
Well, and in fact,
I mean, it's a good movie. I enjoyed watching it.
no, it was actually designed as an espionage movie.
Good. Yeah, but just like, spy movies aren't my favorite genre.
Ah,
Okay, yeah, good. Well, it felt like it, and I mean, it was really fun, and there were a lot of things I really really did like about it, especially on the character development side of things. The friendship between Natasha and Cap that kind of grows over the movie, particularly when they're in the mall, kind of doing their heist and figuring out the data, and Natasha's really teaching him modern spycraft. I thought was really fun, and I'm always down for a male-female platonic friendship. Is really nice to see in movies. They can just be buds, and that's great. Getting Sam the Falcon in there too, really introducing his character. So it was a Captain America movie, but it was also a Black Widow and a Falcon movie, which I really, really enjoyed as an aspect. And the kind of political thriller aspect of it. So, the underground organization infiltrating to the highest levels, all led by the ghost of Zola in the machine. Like really, really kind of fun mechanisms there. And then kind of the crystallization of Captain America as the heart of the Avengers, because he's torn from the 40s, acclimating to modern day, but modern day values don't match his own, and he was kind of back and forth in the different types of fight scenes, being just jolted back when he sees Bucky. I thought it was really kind of lovely how especially when he stole his original uniform from the museum, that was just like, no, I may be modern, but I'm going to keep my values, and I'm going to not let these organizations I work within filter me. So I thought that was really nice. And even if like most of these movies are so good, it doesn't have to be a favorite to still be pretty awesome. What about any cookies or tidbits that you notice?
we're going to have a quick word from our sponsor, and we'll be right back with more on MCU, The Winter Soldier. Before I get there, I did leave out my absolute favorite scene, which was the attack on Nick Fury in his vehicle. He's driving down the street, really, and some bogus cops attack him. And that was so awesome. They put the battering ram up there, and his computer system was down, and he reboots it and then gets out of there. And we didn't even mention Sharon Carter, the nurse, who is actually the CIA agent overseeing the protection of Captain America. And anything going on there? In the comic books, apparently there was. In this movie, maybe not, probably not. But that whole thing going on, the Nick Fury coming to Captain America's apartment, the whole Nick Fury dying part of it, and his fake death, etc. All of that was to me, I forgot how much I loved it just sitting and watching it. And then at the end, obviously, Bucky, the Winter Soldier's Bucky Barnes. Mm-hmm. And Bucky is Cap's best friend from literally childhood. And Bucky's had his mind wiped so many times. He has no idea what reality is, but he recognizes Captain America. He recognizes Chris Rogers. And the end, near the end, when they both fall from the aircraft carriers from the sky into the Potomac River, and it's actually Bucky that hauls Captain America out of the Potomac after he's knocked him out. I thought that was very poignant as
I
well. And then
wasn't.
Bucky disappears. We don't know at that point if we're going to see him again or not. We hope so, but we really don't know.
Yeah, I like the moment just before they fell out of the aircraft where Steve was willing to be beaten, to help Bucky return to himself and remember who he was. I'm with you till the end of the line. That really, really poignant self-sacrifice for his friend.
So there are three things that I wanted to bring up, kind of cookie wise. One is this may have my favorite end scene because we get introduced to the twins, and they become they're very prominent in the next movie. One of them is Wanda, the Scarlet Witch. Her brother Pietro is Quicksilver. Wanda goes off to have a whole series of adventures, indeed her own television show that we'll get to at some point. So it's falls in love with characters yet to be created. So it's very cool to see her in that. And then two things that really spoke to me, probably more for my age than anything. One is at one point, they type into the computer in the bunker, I think, and the computer says, "Shall we play a game?" And anyone who watched movies in the 80s knows that reference, and they know that came from War Games. And you said that a million times, no matter how old you were, 5, 25, 45, it didn't matter. Shall we play a game? So that was incredibly cool for me. The other thing was I don't think you've been to Washington yet, but the Lincoln Memorial has a huge reflecting pool in front of it. Obviously, a very famous American monument and site, and they're running around that. And I don't know how much money they had to pay to clear that off, but it was very, very cool. And that's where Chris Rogers, Captain America, meets Sam. And
On
they
your left.
the on your left. That's what you say when you're biking too. I've never heard that in running. I just ran around people. But Sam gives him some insights into the modern world, and he says you need to listen to a Marvin Gaye album. And Captain has a list, and he has a little very small notebook, and he's writing down things he needs to check out to bring him up to the modern day. And so he writes the name of the album down. I thought that was really, really cool as well. The scenes with Sam where he flies as a paraglider were just way, way, way cool as well. So what about some cookies for you, or Easter eggs, I guess we should say?
Well, yeah, the notebook I thought was a fun one where he was writing things down. And I learned that they actually changed the items in that notebook depending on where the film was released. So it was like different in Japan or Korea or here, what he was writing down. So I found that in supplemental research, but I thought that was a pretty cool mechanism. One of the ones that really hit me super, super hard, Easter egg wise, was they played the final song from Endgame in this movie, and I can't remember exactly what point in the film it was. It might have been when he was visiting with Peggy Carter, but they were playing that exact song, and I stood up and said, "Oh no!" I thought it was really, really touching that they were. Well, I guess they had chosen it here and then decided to revisit it later. The other thing that really kind of hit me the deepest, I think, in the movie was a line that Natasha had. She said, "Sorry you died for nothing," to Cap. When the extent of the rot is revealed. And I thought that was really, really on the nose and really sad, just because it's really hard not to think that about the world that we live in, as well as the MCU. All of this keeps happening and is ongoing, and it really does feel like all of what happened in the past was for nothing, whether or not it is or was. Definitely a topic maybe for a different podcast, but I thought it was really interesting that they brought that up. And then the other one I had was the introduction of the twins, because I think after Thor, Scarlet Witch is probably one of my favorites.
Peggy Carter, as anyone who's listened to this series knows, I fell in love with Peggy Carter first time I saw her, and I loved her all the way through the series. And there's some great Peggy Carter moments, although it can't be more than 2 or 3 minutes of references throughout this entire 2.5-hour movie. But one of them was when Cap and Natasha go to the abandoned army base, which it turns out where Captain America was created, or he trained rather. He was created in New York. But they go into a secure area, and there's pictures of Howard Stark and I forget the Tommy Lee Jones character from Captain America, and Peggy Carter. And it turns out that Peggy Carter was one of the founders of S.H.I.E.L.D. Now, they've just released, or I don't know when they released, but recently, what they call MCU shorts. And these are 3 to 15-minute, literally shorts that either give some more, I guess they're movie outtakes, because they give some additional information. And one of those shorts explains why Peggy Carter was a founder of S.H.I.E.L.D. And I watched all of the Peggy Carter TV shows, and I'd never seen that. So it is new information. But I hadn't fully appreciated she was actually a founder of S.H.I.E.L.D., and you learn in the short that's at the behest of Howard Stark. He pulled her out of the intelligence unit she was working with in New York. So, huge shout out to Peggy. The romance continues, and obviously we're going to talk about that quite a bit going forward.
Yeah, and just one final note, I think, on I was going to say one final note on just the Peggy Carter in specific. When she and Cap are having their conversation, she says something that I think is really foreshadowing for the rest of the MCU, at least the phase 1 of the MCU. And she talks about how sometimes you have to be willing to take it down and tear it down. And that, we're going to be talking about that a lot when we get to Age of Ultron, and then obviously the next movies, especially the ending ones. That really is a recurring theme. And I think it's great that it was Peggy who started everything, is one of the people to bring that up.
And a few words about Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier. He is one of the most badass dudes that's around. The fight scene with Captain America was just awesome. When he appears, he's going after Nick Fury, and that was equally awesome. And now I've said awesome twice in the space of about 10 seconds, but it was awesome. So he is one bad dude, and he is a war machine, and he's a cyborg because he's, part man, part machine. And so the whole kind of cyborg robots, we have that theme in particularly in Age of Ultron moving forward. So I thought that was an interesting angle that was really not fully explored in Winter Soldier, but I think it set it up for some of the other movies down the road. So, Megan, I hope I've persuaded you just how awesome this movie is. And I hope our listeners will join us again for our next episode of Popcorn and Compliance, the full MCU, where we take up the Age of Ultron. This is Tom Fox again. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Popcorn and Compliance, the MCU series. I hope you will join Megan and I next time where we take up the Age of Ultron. Also, I'd like to tell you about a special podcast series that recently premiered on the Compliance Podcast Network, Trial of the Century, the Enron Trial, where with business journalist Lauren Steffi, who covered the Enron trial, we take a look at the trial of Enron as opposed to the bankruptcy. I know you'll enjoy it if you like fraud, if you like trials, or you just like a good story. Check it out on the Compliance Podcast Network.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.